The lovely Sophie here. She's one of the Love Your Skin members and brought her on today because she has a really powerful story and it's very much so in line with everything that we've been talking about. The gut-skin connection, the brain-skin connection, and we've started talking and we'll be chatting a little bit about allergies as well. So this was a really, really big part of Soph's journey, because when we first started chatting, the main thing was allergies. And she'll discuss this a little bit more, but her main goal was to not have to carry tissues around in every single pocket because she was always just wiping her nose. And so a big part of the journey was realizing that eczema, the asthma, and allergies all interconnected. And it was also interesting because we realized, like, she started the program and didn't realize all the gut dysfunction, and it came out within the program, which was very challenging, and definitely have to honor Soph because it was hard to go through all that, but it was a good realization. And in hindsight, looking back, that I had all of this dysfunction and didn't even realize it. And the doctors were going to do desensitization shots because that was the only option. So pretty cool to be on the other side. Lots of brain skin work that Soph did on her own and had been on that journey, picked up some more tools in the program as well. So it's going to be a really good chat. So thank you, Sophie, for joining us and sharing your journey.
Pleasure. It's good to be here and yeah, excited.
Yeah, it's nice to be on the other side, even though healing journey is still continuing, but to be able to help others, because a lot of times when you talk about your journey, people are like, oh, that's me. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's start with your journey before the program. So leading up to it.
Yeah, so I have had asthma, eczema, allergies since I was a baby. So yeah, that eczema started then. And yeah, grew up with it as a kid, had the rashes, elbows, knees, all of that. And that still into my teens as well. I had it. I remember when I was working, I used to have the shirt didn't cover my elbows and everything. So yeah, eczema was a big part of my life all through childhood and teens. And then it sort of faded a little bit, but it was still always there when I became an adult. And yeah, but the asthma was still very, very strong. So and the allergies have been dealing that. Yeah, like I said to Alicia, I always carried tissues in my pockets. When I was in school, I used to sit near the bin because I wanted to be able to chuck my tissues in the bin, not have to walk as far. I could go into any house and I would memorize where the tissue boxes were. Any building that I went into regularly, I knew, like, were they a tissue box on the fridge person or on the side table? Like, yeah, we're talking, like, I used a lot of tissues. Yeah, so that was definitely my experience. And yeah, going to doctors, it was just, try and manage your stress, but otherwise here's some creams, antihistamines. Yeah, so that was a big part of it as well. I was on antihistamines pretty much daily for years because of my allergies. So I guess on that, my allergies, dust, pollen, grass, all the animals basically. And yeah, so it meant that whenever I went out, I relying on antihistamines, which ended up suppressing a lot of the issues. So yeah, I hadn't realized how bad the dysfunction was until I got into the program, really. Yeah, so I think that's my story up until the program.
Yeah, so it's pretty, I mean, to be off antihistamines, right? Because that just suppresses that immune reaction, the histamine response, right? Antihistamines. And then also to come off of those is big. So for somebody who's used them their whole life with extreme allergies, and also to have reduced symptoms as well is pretty great. Yeah.
Mm.
So what's your tissue consumption these days?
Yeah, I still have tissues around. um, I'm not completely tissue free, but yeah, like I'm not stuck in sounds like an addiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not like, I'm not grabbing 5 to stuff into my pockets every time I leave the house or in any situation. Yeah, like I'm not needing to wipe my nose 20 times a day. So yeah, still around, but it's so much better. Like even just my sinuses don't feel as clogged and painful, and yeah, it's only when I noticed if I'm around my allergy, like if I'm in a place where it's quite dusty, then that's when it flares a little bit. Or if I'm around like dogs or different animals, that's when it flares more. But even then, my reactions to like pollen and being outside has reduced significantly. So it's a lot more comfortable.
Because it's, well, first of all, when you have to be thinking about where tissues are, where there is a bin 24/7, right? You're not consciously, like that's just subconsciously happening in the background. So just for that to take up that much brain space is a lot. Like that's a big weight that you're carrying around always. And it's also, I can imagine, like a bit of insecurity as well. So like that aspect too, which is compounding. And yeah, it's pretty cool that you've got, like, of course you still have your allergens, but the fact that it was 24/7 to now you can notice that if you do have that direct trigger, it's not as great of a response, and it's just not always happening, which is awesome. And part of with your allergies and your sinuses, like some of the stuff we talk about is that when you can do your nasal breathing, that's what activates your rest and digest. So just to be able to do that and being able to regulate the brain skin connection and your nervous system is amazing. It's like, I don't really like to talk about that too much at the beginning of people's journey because you can overthink it, but it is just in terms of calming yourself, it's a big deal. So well done.
Yeah, breathing through my nose I wasn't able to do that much. Like yeah, it's so helpful being able to do that now, like you said, to be able to calm. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. And so also one of the things that we noticed was throughout the journey as being triggers was that eczema was secondary. There's a lot of different triggers, which we can talk about your flower bucket. But eczema was secondary because we always talk, it's a secondary symptom to what's causing inflammation. So when you were around your allergens, that's what created some of your eczema flare-ups too, which was interesting to note. Had you correlated that before?
I had only noticed it like if I was around an animal, then sometimes like if I was touching an animal, then I'd be like, oh, I'm itchy. But that was the only time I noticed it. I hadn't realized, I hadn't put that together with the dust and the pollen and being outside and soaps and feathers and hay, just all the environmental, just all of them. I hadn't realized that. It really was eczema would flare and it was just, why is this happening? Like, I don't know why I don't know, just put it down to, oh, okay, my body's letting me down again. Like I definitely had this sort of relationship with my body and skin before of like, oh no, not again. Like why? I don't know, just frustration and disappointment. And feeling like, oh, it's not getting better. Like, I don't know, what else should I do? I don't know what else I can do. And like you said earlier, I think about this time last year, I was researching as a lot of people say I was one of those big research people. Yeah, and going, oh, okay, desensitization shots. Like, is that the next thing? Is that the only possibility? Yeah, to be able to fix all these issues that seem to be going wrong.
Yeah, which is big because you need to be continuously doing that. And for some people can be successful. Definitely don't want to discount it, but really,
Yeah.
really cool to see what can be done without it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and also actually, I don't want to breeze over. Thanks for sharing that you felt like something was wrong with your body. Because I think a lot of people, and if anybody's watching, like, comment one below, because it's very common. I think we've all been there where it's like, why me? Like, and like, what's wrong with me? Right. So you can have this dialogue in your head. It's like, I see everybody else that's normal and can eat and be outside. And, you know, when you feel like you're allergic to the world, and then you have all these kind of like, I don't know if it's for you, but like, I'm not worthy. It's like, what's wrong with me? And then like wanting to have babies or do all these things, or like, is this even like, am I capable of it? So it's, yeah, so much more than just allergies and eczema. It just creates a snowball of, yeah, just feeling not good enough. So
yeah. And I don't know, there's this, or there was this, oh, my body's letting me down. Like, I can't do this, I can't do that, like everyone else is, because so there was this sort of hate is strong, that's too strong, but just like like, why? And you know, but that changed through the program, of now being more, I understand why it's been like this, and now I know how to look after myself, look after my body, and how to keep getting better. I probably jumped ahead a little bit there, but yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. Because understanding what's happening in your body, you're very much so, as the researcher in you, like, what's going on? What do I need to be doing? But it is helpful because it gives you peace of mind. Otherwise, it creates anxiety, right? When it's just, what is it? This is always happening. But when you can understand and boil it down, even though a lot's going on with everybody, in particular your case, lots is happening. So it can feel overwhelming. But when you can kind of compartmentalize, okay, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's a weight off your shoulders for sure. Yeah. Okay, so we'll chat about your flare-up bucket and what was contributing to all the inflammation. And so these are kind of contributing factors, and then like there's the root causes of those. A lot of people stop at this. So yours was the brain skin, which we'll chat about. It was the gut skin, big one, and then environmental allergies, the antihistamines, and then some of the contributing factors. You did a very good picture. You're such a good student. Unbalanced meals, processed foods, sugar, hot showers, all that added. So yeah, we'll break those down into how it was affecting you. So first, let's get started on the poor immune function. So that's how that presents when we talk about the immune system was the eczema, allergies, asthma. And so we kind of went through all of that. So you had the that was your next step. And then using the antihistamines, which found out and learned a little bit about how that affects digestion, which is the next one, and also liver function too, which are two things that we had to work on. And there's no harm in using them. I always want to put that disclaimer, but long-term, and if we're not getting to the root cause, then that's when you can see the long-term effects of it. And the reality is, like, the next one is the hidden gut infections. So, you know, if you've had eczema and allergies and asthma your whole life, nothing's 100%, but it's very probable that you would have had some sort of an imbalance in your gut. And then you have all the contributing factors, like you spoke about, the processed food, unbalanced meals, high stress, sugar that feeds into that. And then it just gets worse. And then you start noticing more symptoms over a lifetime. So one of the things was, when you first started, we do the symptom score, and you scored low in gut symptoms. Every time somebody scores low in gut symptoms or nervous system, I'm like, there's more to this. I know. But there's a disconnect, right? When there's a disconnect with the brain skin connection, you're not aware of what's going on underneath. So yeah, tell me a little bit about the journey with your, and I'll ask you a couple questions too, with the gut skin connection.
Yeah, so like you said, when I filled out that symptom score thing, I was like, oh, my gut is fine. You know, there was a little bit like, I don't know, I might have given myself a 4 out of 10 or something like that, for bloating and for me that was very low compared to immune, which was mostly like 9s. Like I was, I was definitely, the immune system was what I noticed the most. And yeah, I just had no idea how bad my gut symptoms were. And there were times like over the last couple of years where I'd feel in pain, and that was that bloating. And I didn't know why that was happening. But often, like my partner would be like, maybe you've just got some trapped gas, like, you know, it's probably just normal, like it's fine. And so I was like, okay, yeah, that's, you know, that's probably what it is. And I just didn't know how often that was occurring until, started in the program and started like just at the start, just monitoring my symptoms. Part of that was adding in the fiber, adding in the early steps that everyone's doing. But monitoring those symptoms and going, I feel nauseous pretty much after every meal that I eat. I was bloating after every meal. The nauseous feelings and the bloating were probably the 2 main ones that really stood out once I started that. And so, we started addressing that, and then more of those issues sort of came out. And then, I just had no idea how bad it was, how much dysfunction was coming from my gut. And I since have been doing a whole lot more reading as well, which I've been loving. Like I've been reading the mind gut connection just recently. I'm only like halfway through, but I'm just like absorbing that. It's so good. It's been amazing to learn about that gut skin connection and that mind gut connection. And recognize, like, part of, as I started working on the gut symptoms with you, my headspace, I got so focused on it, and I'm just constantly going to the mirror and like looking and touching my stomach and be like, am I really bloated today? Like, what would I rate this today? Because I was just so keen for it to get better. Like I just want to be able to expand my diet. You know, I want this to get better, but that was sort of working against me, because it was just activating my brain and my stress and the gut mind connection that was just making the bloating so much worse. It was just making all those symptoms so much worse. So that was one of the things I had to really learn as well, to take a step back and just go through the process and in some ways do less monitoring of my symptoms and just stick it out and do the little bits of monitoring that I needed to recognize, okay, where do I need to change protocols or whatever that is, but otherwise try and not think about it, essentially.
I think that's for the people that are on their healing journey, I think that's really powerful because it is a pattern. I was very much the same too. It's like you're completely committed and you have that personality, like I want to do everything and just very keen, which is good. But then there is that point and you start noticing these patterns coming up again, right? Where like you just are thinking yourself into overwhelm and essentially into a flare up. And that's a barrier for actually, right, when you're in that fight and flight, because we're stressing and overthinking and constantly looking, to create that boundary with yourself. So well done for that. I do remember you're like, I couldn't do it. And I'm like, that's great. If you can't do the symptom diary, like, you have to put that boundary around it. And it's definitely like, that's the whole idea of it, right? Getting in tune with your body and noticing, and then creating action around that. So that's a big one. And it just shows too, it's interesting how connected the brain and the gut are. And then, you know, the brain, the gut, and the skin all together. So when, you know, you have a bit of trial and error, but then you look back and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, I see the impact. Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting too with the gut. We don't need to go into like all the details of what happened, but once we started working on the gut, right, once you got in tune with your body and started monitoring your symptoms, how often you were in like your baseline of like essentially dysfunction was normal for you. And then you started realizing, oh, I actually don't feel good most days. Wow. And then when we started digging deep into it, when you started addressing the hidden infections, that's when a lot of the symptoms can come out too. And that's like, for you, was a big turning point, was like, well, first of all, why am I getting worse? But then on the flip was, oh, this has all been inside of me and creating the dysfunction and impacting the allergies big time. And when we think of, and the asthma and then the eczema, and we think of the flare-up bucket that we already listed, those, in addition to that, so the gut infections would be producing inflammation. And then when we started breaking them down, more inflammation, which came out. But the silver lining is it was some pretty distinct symptoms. So we knew what it was, and then could take action from that. So that was cool, because we didn't even do test, like GI testing. So we could get a lot of info just from your symptoms in that sense. So that was cool. Yeah.
It was really good. Like you said, at the time I was like, it's all going bad. Like, why? And I remember like I would be saying to my husband, I'm like, everything's so much worse since doing the program. Like, why is that? And then, but it so wasn't. Like, it was that it needed to happen. Like I needed to recognize all these issues, and I needed to be able to address them. And also I'm so thankful that I could get, like, I was able to do it in this safe environment, but also with like a professional that knows, you know, where to redirect, what to do next. And so I wasn't just blindly going, oh, I'll just try some of this, like, because every chance, if I got really, really desperate, I probably would have tried to do different things from what I was researching, and maybe I would have started working on some stuff, but it would not have been effective. It would have been really dangerous for my health. So it was so good to be able to do it in this program.
And definitely props to you, because you come to the calls and you'd have all the questions, you do the research, and then we chat about it. Because there is, for everybody been there too, it's okay, I'm feeling all these symptoms, it's not working, next thing. And that's where people start yo-yoing, right? And it is the long game, unfortunately, right? But that's, you know, natural medicine, nutritional medicine, it is the natural approach, which isn't as quick as medications, and it does take time. And that's when you say, okay, and we had that conversation a couple of times, like, how long has the body been in a state of dysfunction? Okay, it is going to take time to heal. So having the chats and having that support is definitely helpful. And then also it's nice on the calls, and the different calls, there's a little supportive community, so you get to know everybody. Okay, so that was a bit about the gut skin connection, those hidden infections, which when we zoom out, that's where the majority of your immune system is. So, and that's as well, you know, you can be eating all the healthy food that you want, but if you have all this overgrowth in your gut, if you can't actually break it down and absorb it, if you're always nauseous, right, and all this, you're not actually going to be absorbing it and utilizing it. So that was really important to address that. And then the brain skin. So this was the mind gut skin connection for you. So yeah, you had been on a nice journey before the program, but hadn't connected all the dots yet. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey with the brain skin connection?
Yeah, so I have always been very passionate about mental health. So yeah, before coming into the program, that was something that I've always been very passionate about. I work as a mental health support worker, and I also, have had my own mental health illnesses. And like a couple of years ago or 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with depression and glandular fever, and I got really sick. And I think that is one of the pivotal moments in my health journey, in that I got really low, and I think that's where a lot of the gut issues, the gut issues were compounding over my whole life, but extra in this period of time. But yeah, so I have been working with a psychologist for years, and I love her and I love doing that work. And so I've been doing a lot of work on my own trauma, my own experiences, and working on that. But I remember coming into this program, and I think I remember in our first consult, and you had been saying how for a lot of people stress is one of the big triggers. And I was thinking, and I talked to my husband about it, and we were both like, oh, but there's not much you can do about stress. Like, if that's the only thing that's causing issues, like, what's really the point? Like, and I feel like I have learned so much since then, in that, like, there's so much that we can be doing to regulate your nervous system. And yes, stress is always going to be there. Like, there's always going to be things that come up, but it's that chronic stress that's an issue. And needing to regulate that can actually have a huge change on your body. But yeah, that was a big thing that I had to learn, of just how much stress was impacting my gut, like slowing things down, and impacting digestion and headspace. And then so much of when I was in the flare-ups, just like looking at my skin, and it's getting worse. And flare-ups, they're traumatic in themselves at times. And so once you have a bad one, then I definitely relate to everyone that was saying, you get so fearful of, oh, is this getting worse again? Am I gonna get that low again? But for me, it was that focusing on those, like, the skin was just taking me backwards. It was like myself telling myself, oh, it is getting worse. And then it would get worse because that was all I was telling it. But yeah, I remember, I think Mandy did a post in the group about how, I think it was her, maybe it was someone else, I don't know, sorry. But yeah, how she would look at her skin and tell herself, no, this is healing, this is getting better. And just sort of that positive thinking. I remember reading that at a really pivotal moment when I had been looking at my skin going, oh, this is getting worse. And I made that change, and I still need to learn to do that. But that has been a really big change for me, acknowledging that. And those are a few things on that.
Yeah, and that's thanks for sharing all of that. Very helpful for people just starting and also on their journey. And that's one of the things in the program we talk about, is that your body hears everything your mind says. So your brain doesn't understand that, you're just being negative, right? Or, you're just going into that, like, I don't want to overuse PTSD, but like you can have that like traumatic response from going through a flare-up, because it does affect you emotionally and mentally so much. So then your body, which you read The Body Keeps a Score, one of my favorite books, literally your nervous system will have the same reaction, if not worse, because you've reconditioned it as it happened. So you might not even be in that full body flare, but as soon as you think you're going to go back, your body's always going to try and keep you safe, and then say, put you in fight mode, flight mode, do what it takes so we don't go back. And then that loophole of, go. And then all of a sudden skin's getting worse, but did I just think my way into that flare up? It's a lot of moving pieces at once. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So well done. I mean, all the work that you've done previous to this can help you have a little bit more of that bird's eye view of what's happening. But even in the moment, it's really, really challenging. So it is helpful when you hear what other people are doing, where they're like, okay, just talk nice to your skin and say that it's healing, you're on the right path, focus on the wins, doing all of that is really, really helpful. And then what you said too about stress, this is a common thing, and people are being a little bit more open about what they're thinking at the beginning of the calls. And so far, everybody's been like, no, like, okay, yeah, it's stress. Yeah, I'll deal with it after, or whatever stress, like whatever she's talking about. And then it's like midway through, they're like, okay, I get it. Yeah. It's like, and I think somebody posted in the group, like, what am I supposed to do? Quit my job? And it's like, no, like, it's not hiding away from life. Like, there's so much happening in the world right now, but it's just your response to it. And then just be able to create resiliency. So, and again, drops in the bucket. So one drop of stress doesn't trigger you into going into fight, flight, survival mode. So that's definitely long-term going to be the most impactful for skin. Because it's interesting, you said, I noticed how this nervous system response, the brain skin, had affected your gut and also affected your skin, right? So it has that direct correlation. And then obviously that just suppresses the immune system even more loops. There's just so many loops with eczema. Yeah. So well done. So that was a lot. So now being on the other side and you're still doing work healing, it's never like over, right? And things will come up, but you have the tools to workshop it, and having that confidence and that new self-love. But how does it feel? Going through the journey and now being here.
It's so good. Like it's black and white. Like there were some really dark moments. Like it is hard. I really feel for everyone going through, I don't know, health stuff can trigger lots of different things, but it's so good being on this side and just being excited about seeing the growth and the change in my body and in my mind. And like you said, like there's still a lot of work to happen, and I know, I'm still working on that stress response, still working on those gut brain stuff. So there'll be flare-ups that come, but it's so different knowing, okay, I know what tools to use to be able to deal with a flare-up, if it's here or if it's there. I know now what creams go where that suit me. I know what foods my body likes, what supplements to use or whatever that is, and all that sort of stuff gives me a sense of control or empowerment to make the changes that I need to do that. And I mean, I've said to you, like, I just love nutrition now. Like I'm just so it's so good. Food is medicine. Like, what happens to my liver? Bone broth. So good. So I'm just really positive, and keen to help other people as well, or like keen to, because the amount of times that I hear people that don't have eczema but have different things, and they're just like, oh yeah, I know stress is making this worse, but there's nothing I can do about it. And it's like, no, there is. Or with anything, but particularly with the food, how we can be supporting our body and our health and our mental health as well. Like I'm just really excited to hopefully help others, and hopefully this interview has been helpful for other people in the journey in the program. But I'm really excited for like at the moment there's still quite a bit of food, well not quite a bit, but a few different things that I can't eat at the moment, but I can see down the track that I will be able to, and that's really exciting.
That's the light at the end of the tunnel, and you can see that the symptoms reducing, and then being able to expand your diet, because you were definitely on one of the more severe cases, just in terms of food and symptoms and everything. But something that you had said is having control was a sense of relief for you, and understanding, right, then that, okay, I can control my response to stress, how I can regulate my nervous system, what I put in my mouth, for the good, and I don't want to say for the bad, but the triggers. And it's such a difference. It's like day and night, because when you don't feel like you have any control and you don't know what's going on, that's a loophole into just all that what we were talking about before, just that roller coaster of the mental and emotional, and just some like dark thoughts. It's easy to get caught in that. So that's that, like, it's not, I mean, having 90% clear skin, right, is great, definitely, but it is just the confidence in yourself. And okay, if something happens, I can workshop it. And you can't cure eczema, right, but you can control it. And so that's freedom, at the end, when you're like, okay, it's okay if I get a little flare, because I know what I can do, right? And I know it's possible, and I'm not just going to get stuck in that flare. So yeah, very good. Do you have any words of wisdom for people maybe who are completely oblivious to, we'll start with that one, and then we can do people on the journey, people that are just starting on their journey, or just not even sure where to get started? Do you have any words of wisdom for them?
I think probably the main thing I would say is to be kind to yourself. I think, when I was first starting, or not really sure what was going on, I was very like, give me what I need to do and I will do it to the letter. Like I was very motivated in that sense, but because of that, I would crash and burn a little bit, because I tried to do too much too soon, or I had such high expectations for myself that I had to do everything right straight away. And I have had to learn that no, I need to be kind and gracious to myself, and especially when you're at the start and there's lots of things going on, there's lots of changes occurring. And I mean, that's also a side note, follow whatever Alicia says. I know someone else has said that in an interview, and 100% correct. But taking things one step at a time and being kind to yourself, and doing what you need to do that's going to keep you in a good headspace, reaching out to others for support, different things like that, I think.
That's very good words of wisdom. Slower is faster. That's one thing now I chat to everybody at the beginning, because I'm like, learn from all of our, like, that was me too, learn from our trial and error, right? Because even though people are like, okay, what should I be doing? What diet should I be doing? And give me all the supplements. And what we've noticed is that if you just do what we're talking about at the beginning, you'll reduce your symptom score without having to do all those things, which is really great. But everybody just wants to like jump in, do it all. And I love the passion, but it is like, honestly, from a headspace, because you end up doing all and then crash, and then it's all really, really hard. So good words of wisdom, and follow the process, and be kind to yourself. Create boundaries. If you do need to back off a little bit, back off, If you just need to do me time, that's totally cool too. Yeah. Beautiful. And then I guess anybody, well, that was, I guess, for people kind of at the beginning and the middle. Just continue, yeah, follow the process. Trust in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one other thing as well on that is, I think you were saying it earlier, about the snowball effect. Like I was noticing that in myself, even in the last couple of days. I don't know, something came up and I was really stressed out about it, and I had a bit of a spiral. And I used to, when I would stress, I'd be like, oh no, my skin's gonna go bad, like, and then I would stress more because I was worried about my skin, worried about the stress, and it would just keep going. Whereas now, at least I noticed the other day, like I noticed a little bit of a flare, but then I was like, no, it's okay. I know what my body and my skin can do now. I know what it can handle, and I like trust myself to be able to heal that, figure, like, I don't know, that snowball effect of when things keep improving and your body learns how to fight issues or how to, yeah, bounce back from stress and things like that. It's really encouraging, and it gets a lot easier the more that you notice those things. So I guess that's noticing the positive, like the wins, and the more that you notice that, the more that you realize that your body is getting better, and then you can trust it to keep to keep doing that even in the midst of flares or whatever comes up. Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, doing the weekly wins and noticing the small little glimmers is really important, because if you're only focusing on clear skin and the outcome, it's going to be really, really hard. And it's actually counterproductive to do that. So noticing the small changes, and that just like the small reductions and whatever it is, being able to anchor in on your win. And then exactly what you said, that's building skin resilience, right? And that's what we talk about. It's not just your skin, right? It's everything that impacts your skin, which is the gut symptoms, it's resiliency to stress, and like you've done a really, really good job. And I've always said you have a good sense of like introspection, where you can notice yourself and what you're doing, and you can reflect on it. So well done. And, you know, when you do that reflection, and you can celebrate that you notice that, right? And then like what you're saying is like the more that you keep repeating a pattern for the negative, but here for the positive, you're reinforcing it. Yeah. So that rewiring the brain skin connection to a T. Gold stars all around. Star student. Well, thank you so much, Soph, for spreading the word for others, helping people on the journey. And yeah, I guess the silver lining where you're at now is that you have the capacity to be able to help other people, and a little bit more motivation because you know the impact and how it can change people's lives. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah, you've been very, very pivotal in this journey. I really appreciate it. And yeah, good.
I'm glad I could help. Thanks, Soph.
All right.